As I sat on my couch, scrolling through social media, I couldn't help but notice the guy next door. He was always doing something interesting, whether it was playing his guitar on the front porch, or working on his vintage car in the driveway. I had lived in this house for a few months now, and I had yet to muster up the courage to introduce myself. But there was something about him that drew me in. Maybe it was the way he smiled to himself as he played his guitar, or the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he laughed. Whatever it was, I was intrigued. I decided to do some reconnaissance. I started by observing his daily routine. He would wake up early, around 6 a.m., and start his day with a cup of coffee on the porch. Then, he would work on his car for a bit, tinkering with the engine or polishing the chrome. After that, he would take a walk around the neighborhood, sometimes with his guitar slung over his shoulder. I also noticed that he had a lot of visitors. Friends, I assumed, since they would laugh and chat with him on the porch. But there was one person who caught my attention, a woman with long, curly hair and a bright smile. She would come over every few days, and they would spend hours talking on the porch. I wondered if she was his girlfriend, but they didn't seem to be romantic. They were more like partners in crime. One day, I decided to take a chance. I walked out of my house and approached him as he was working on his car. "Hey, mind if I join you?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked up, startled, and then smiled. "Not at all. I could use some company." We started talking, and I learned that his name was Maximum. He was a musician, a mechanic, and a world traveler. He had been all around the globe, from Europe to Asia to South America. He had a passion for music, and a heart of gold. As we talked, I realized that Max was more than just a guy next door. He was a kindred spirit, a fellow adventurer, and a true original. Over the next few weeks, Max and I became fast friends. We would hang out on the porch, talk about life, and share stories. I learned that he had grown up in a small town, with big dreams and a passion for music. He had always wanted to travel the world, to see new places and meet new people. But life had other plans. When he was just a teenager, his parents had been killed in a car accident. He was left alone, with no family and no direction. He had turned to music as a way to cope with his grief, and it had become his solace. But as he got older, Max realized that he couldn't stay in one place for too long. He had to keep moving, to keep exploring. And so he had set out on his own, traveling the world and playing his guitar for anyone who would listen. It was a story of heartache and loss, but also of hope and resilience. And as I listened to Max tell it, I felt my own heart expanding with empathy and understanding. As we spent more time together, I started to notice strange occurrences around the neighborhood. Tools would go missing, only to reappear a few days later. Strange noises could be heard coming from Max's house at odd hours. And then, there was the time I saw him sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night, carrying a large duffel bag. I started to wonder if Max was involved in something illegal. But as I looked into his eyes, I knew that couldn't be true. He was a good person, with a good heart. One day, I decided to confront him. "Max, what's going on?" I asked, as we sat on the porch. "I've noticed some strange things happening around here. Tools going missing, weird noises at night. What's going on?" Max looked at me, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Ah, you've noticed that, have you?" He leaned in, a conspiratorial look on his face. "Let me tell you, my friend. I'm not just a musician, or a mechanic. I'm also a treasure hunter." My eyes widened in surprise. "A treasure hunter?" Max nodded. "Yes. I've been all around the world, searching for hidden treasures and lost artifacts. It's a dangerous game, but it's also the most exciting thing I've ever done." I was stunned. I had never met a real-life treasure hunter before, but as I looked at Max, I knew that it made sense. He was always on the move, always searching for something new and exciting. But that made me fall in love with him. But the problem is, how can I get him to love me? After few days I decided to get him close to me because I know I wanted more. But luckily he felt the same thing for me, which made it more easy for me, but I was scared of heartbreak. But to cut long story short, we ended up together.